Hello and welcome to yet another video here on the YouTube channel Spillfriending and Fellowship, STF. My name is Andreas Norwegian Viking and this is Wargaming Discussions episode 5. So last week we tackled the topic of finding people and communities to play with. So I didn't actually go into the finding people as much as I should have maybe. But I tackled the how to make a community happen more, and people seem to like that. So we've gotten a few comments on this, so we'll go through those, and then we'll get to this week's topic as well. So first of all, the comment review. We have James Miniature Space telling me, blimey Andreas, that got deep at the end. Great video, super inspirational. Thank you. I just take the topic wherever my mind takes me. I don't prep, I don't have a script. That might make the videos lower quality than like other discussion videos and stuff like that, who does a prep, does a script, but I don't like that because I seem to lose my focus, and I think of new things while I'm talking, letting my mind just drag me this way and that, and yeah, so I got a bit deep, philosophical stuff like that, but that's all good. So next comment was from Nathan Mantell. He says, words cannot express how encouraging this is. I live in the United States, in Kentucky, where I know no one personally that plays the games. I'm apparently also the only one who goes to the games here that plays the game. I think he means probably SPG. And the manager tells me the game is not purchased a lot by anyone else. I've been watching the videos and painting models and playing with a friend who will humour me, but I don't have the community where I can just go somewhere and say who is up for a game. That was really encouraging for me because I needed a good fashioned pep talk. Yeah, get yourself 2 armies and just set up a table. And then if they don't want to play yours, say I'll play yours and then you'll play mine. And suddenly people are interested. I'm interested. I hear lots of talk about gaming communities sprouting up all over. So there is an interest, and if the person's frequenting a gaming club has been playing war games for like 15 years plus, they are bound to have some Hobbit SPG miniatures or Lord of the Rings miniatures lying in the basement somewhere. I do think that if you can have a pound value on every miniature that's lying in the basement somewhere and used for Hobbit SPG by a non-active player, I think that's a big sum indeed. So thanks for your comment, Nathan. Next we go to Warpman RP. He says, thanks for tackling this topic. I plan to be an ambassador for doing the things I mentioned in the original question. Wartman indeed was the person who was one of the persons that suggested this question. It was done by Wartman, and then it was corroborated by someone else I can't remember at the tip of my tongue. James Eachin was it? Yeah. So both of them try to bring this topic around. So yeah, spreading photos and knowledge where I can, but also by posting representative, being a positive representative of the game. It is easy to throw up your hands and blast someone for not knowing The Hobbit is in resurgence, but also it is so critical to give a positive face to that person and let them know that they are simply misinformed, that the game is doing its best ever. Then invite them for a game if you can. Well, I don't know if best ever. I do think like commitment to the actual game is the best ever, but actual purchases, it might be much lower than Return of the King era. But for The Hobbit, yes, I think it's doing its best years ever. So right, so that was the roundup of last week's comments. And as I usually do, I pick a topic off the top of my head, but I've gotten a few topic suggestions, and I'll just try to find that. So I'll just pause the video here, and I'll find the suggestion I was going to use. Alright, so I'm back, and here we have this week's topic. I don't exactly know how to put a label on it, but I think I will call it the perception of a hobbyist. I might. Alright, so this is an anonymous post, because the original the contributor revealed something about this person's private life. So I'll just read it and forget about names and stuff like that. So and we'll tackle the topic. So it says, "Hey Andres, I had an idea for your next discussion, but I didn't want to post it in the group in case I offend anyone. I often wonder how different people balance the hobby with normality in the outside world, the family and friends and different people's perceptions. My hobby is normal to me. The smell of paints makes me happy. The fact that I'm not looking at a screen, mixing colours and creating beautiful detail. I don't see anything weird about it, but I enjoy it as a rare alternative to a computer-based hobby. But most people around me associate it with being weird. My drunk mother just called me sad, in her words, like an old sad man and an anorak, which stings because when she's drunk, I know she really means it. My girlfriend struggled greatly with me taking up the hobby again. She finds it weird. Many people are quite hostile to it as a hobby because of how they associate with it. And I imagine it's something many people in the community may come across, maybe struggle with. It's a suggestion in a way. Your last video was very inspirational to me, by the way, about building a community. So yeah, and then it's something else. Alright, so the topic seems to be the perceptions of other people and your hobby. So first of all, let's break it down. Alright, so my hobby is not the same as your hobby, or your hobby, or your hobby, depending on who's viewing. We're all hobbyists, and this is something going back to my Games Workshop days. I was trained to treat every customer like a person that I didn't know, but I wanted to know. And establishing a rapport with that customer was very important, and understanding that what I do is different from what they do, and on that note try to find a way to include them in what we do in the store and sell them stuff. But that made me get a very interesting approach around the perception of a hobbyist, because I'm a hobbyist and I've been a hobbyist since I was 8 years old. I got my first box of models when I was 8 years old. That's 25 years soon. Got it for Christmas when I was 8, so that's soon to be 24 and a half years ago. And I got the Hero Quest box with some paints added, and ever since then I have painted miniatures. Except for when I was at military service, I don't think there's gone by solitary month where I haven't done anything for the hobby. So I've either painted, prepped, gamed. So everything has been about the hobby in my life. So I might not be the best person to talk to this to, but I'll try to tackle the topic from a objective standpoint anyway. So what you're saying is that although you think that the hobby is normalcy for you, other people find it weird, and that's completely fine. I think personally it is weird that people can be so passionate about football. There, I said it. Please hate me. So I think it's a weird thing watching 22 people on a big football court running after a football trying to score a goal. I don't see the appeal in that game whatsoever. It has so much rules. It's so, yeah. To me, it's boring, and it doesn't appeal to me at all. So personally, I don't see the value in watching a football game. 90 minutes of my life gone by. In that space of time, I can paint a couple of miniatures. I can watch wrestling, which I do, and then in that space of time I can watch 3 to 4 wrestling matches, and that to me is more exciting. But then again, we all have different perceptions about that, so even though I think it's weird, I don't go blaming people for my perceived weirdness of them. So the way I tackle my life, I have a normal job, at least until what's it called, June 1st, when my workplace is being shut down. So I'm looking for a new job at this moment. But I am very open about my hobby. I wear my gamer t-shirts at work. I show people what I do. I talk about it. I've been responsible for training new staff in my workplace, and the first thing I do when I introduce myself is that I say, my name is Andreas, and I'm the biggest geek you'll ever find. That's the way I introduce myself. And my reasoning for this is that I'm such a nerd in many ways, and I don't think that is a word that is negatively sided. You can of course use that word negative. You can use nerd, geek, freak. Everything can be used negative, but I see it as positive. I'm taking the words back, and I just explain to them what I do. So in my hobby, which is multifaceted, I do miniatures games, I do role-playing games, I do board games, card games, I do occasionally LARPing, live action role-playing games, I do play computer games, and I watch wrestling, which is kind of a nerdy thing as well. So I just explain to them that this is what I do, and if you have any questions, please ask me. And that's my approach to it. I don't hide my nerdiness. I don't hide my miniatures in a cupboard somewhere and only bring it out when I'm alone. I paint openly. Sometimes I go by Games Workshop if I have my whole afternoon off and sit there painting. The windows are big and it's a busy street, so it's bound to have some people crossing the path that knows me, and some days they come in and say hi, wondering what I do, and yeah, so I think it's good to be open about it and just embrace it. I know that's not the case for everyone. I know that there might be a stigma to it somewhere, but I do that. I just embrace it. And I'm very sad that people call other people weird for this hobby. I know it might seem weird, but painting toy soldiers has like been a thing for ever, really. H.G. Wells made one of the first miniatures games, Little Wars, in the late 1800s. Let me see, Little Wars. Alright, okay, so 1913. So, in 1913, H.G. Wells made a game called Little Wars, and that was to use toy soldiers, to play with them in a structured game. And so this hobby, as it stands, has been like this for at least 100 years, if not even more. Like strategy in actual battles, you use sand tables, and in the sand tables you would probably pick up something that seems to look like the opposition or whatever, or just use counters. And that's exactly the same as we do in board games or miniatures games. So it's continuing tradition that has been around for at least like 1,000 years now, and I think that is amazing. And if people know the story, and you get them to you get to explain to them how this is just a hobby like everything else, you can talk to them about what their hobby is. So, for instance, many of my co-workers like football, and as I say, I find that as weird as me playing with toy soldiers. They play football themselves. They watch their favorite football team. They wear their colours. They wear scarves. They have season seats at the local stadium. And if I can achieve a rapport and just listen to what their hobby is, and they can listen to what my hobby is, and we can achieve a mutual understanding of what it means to be geeky about something. Because I think it's as geeky as what we do. I use football again because it's such a common thing to like. Because if you're extremely passionate about football, and look down on somebody who's extremely passionate about miniatures games or war games in general, I think that's a bit that's just that person being a hypocrite. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful hobby what we do. You get to use your creative side if you want. I know a lot of people who don't paint at all. You can use your mind when creating armies. Use the rules to create a narrative, or to make that army work, and you get to be just a creative, wonderful person, and I don't think it's anything wrong with that. I think that's just fantastic. So yeah, just do away with the naysayers. If you can't convince them that your approach to the hobby is exactly the same way about their approach to what they're passionate about, then try to drive the conversation somewhere else and just disregard them. You'll find people calling you out, calling your names, in every walk of life. Like I was not abused, but I was verbally abused and bullied at school when I was young. But it was never for my love of miniatures games. It was for the way I looked. I looked hideous when I was young. I grew extremely fast. So I was like Frankenstein's monster to the other kids, I think, because I just had a growth spurt when I was in school. Like when I was 8 to 9 years old, I just shot into the roof, like 6 foot or something, and I didn't shoot up 6 foot. That will make me like 10, but I just grew extremely fast without growing out. So I was like extremely thin and lanky, and I was bullied for that, but I never had a hard time for my hobby in general. I had people in my school playing the games, and I was my first like real friends in school, the persons playing miniatures games. So I don't think it's a tough thing, especially these days, and I'll explain that a bit in a bit. Like tackling real life with the hobby, and the reason for this is that at least in most places of the world, board games, miniatures games, and especially video games, which was considered very geeky, are now mainstream. They are socially acceptable pastime options. So I don't see any difference in a computer game and a miniatures game. The only difference is that the miniatures in a computer game are pre-painted and ours isn't, and we do the rest of the work. So yeah, it's more socially acceptable, and more people flock to the geek hobby, as it were, and play board games. Especially board games are on an extreme high about now, and yeah. So I just think it's weird that people take the time to make fun of people doing this hobby. But I can appreciate from an outside view that it might look weird to use a brush, like sit hours on end painting miniatures and then rolling dice around. I can find that extremely interesting and weird if I look at it from an outside perspective. But you can spend hours tinkering on an old car. You can spend hours prepping your skis, going outside skiing. That's maybe a Norway thing, but don't know if the rest of the world agrees. And you can do so much things. Like you can have a garden, and do gardening, and take solace in that. And for me, painting is my quiet time. I do. Like I said, I do most of my base coats and stuff like that when I watch movies, series, or watch GBHL videos, or the other hosts on the SDF channel, or DCHL, or listen to the Green Dragon podcast. And when I'm doing detail work, I listen to podcasts and I listen to music, and that's kind of my alone reflecting time. I think about what is happening in my life. I think about problems I have, and try to just do reflecting and therapy. Basically, painting is therapy for me. So yeah, and why they're being hostile to the hobby. any person that's hostile doesn't really think that long about an issue, and especially when they don't understand it, many people get frustrated, and then they lose interest in trying to understand it, and then they become either argumentative or aggressive. It might also mean that they're jealous. Bullies in school are often jealous. This is a psychological thing, and the reason why they're either physically or mentally abusive is because they don't have the mental capacity to understand you, or they're just frustrated that they can't do the same as you. So it's out of jealousy or lack of understanding, basically. Sorry. So for me to use myself as an example, it might be kind of counterproductive, because I'm such a huge nerd that I just spread around my hobby everywhere I go. Currently in my living room I have unfinished terrain projects. There is boxes upon boxes of terrain I'm trying to catalogue to sell because of space. I have moved up some of my carry cases for when I make space in my cabinets, so they're in my living room as well. There is board games. In my library section I have every single Black Clover book ever published. So that's, if that's not doing your geek hobby on display. Oh, you play Warhammer, you must be such a geek. Well, I even read the books, which are, some of them are terrible, but I read them nonetheless. So if that's not being a geek for the hobby, I don't know. I have pop action vinyl figures all around my living room. I have all of the large scale Star Wars Lego sets, like the people. So I have the Darth Vader, the Jyn Erso, and Obi-Wan, Stormtroopers, stuff like that in Legos. I have that entire set, like 15 or 80 busts or figures. They're hosted around my TV. Since I don't have any place else to put it before I paint it, my weathertop is on my TV table. And currently there is role-playing books and 20-sided dice on my coffee table as well, because we're going to play role-playing games tonight. So I just put it all on display. I don't really care if people think I'm weird, because I am. I'm weird. I paint small toy soldiers, but everyone is weird. Like, the guy living next to you is probably weird in his own way. If he has a interest he really passionate about, if that's football, cars, racing, collecting stamps, whatever. It's a weird thing. Being passionate about something is making you different than people who aren't passionate about the same thing, and that makes you by definition weirder than the other people. But the difference is that, for instance, football is a widely socially acceptable thing, and ours may not be that socially acceptable yet. So my girlfriend is also a bit of a nerd. She plays board games. She has played a couple of games of Lord of the Rings with me. She wanted to try. She is interested in playing a few games of Blood Bowl with me, and she takes an interest in what I do. She encouraged me to when I paint, and she watches my hobby vlogs. Maybe that's when she's in Bergen and misses my voice. But yeah, so So, for instance, the other day I filmed a hobby vlog clip yesterday, and we were watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the living room, and I just took some paint and all my Saruman miniatures and painted them while we were watching, because I've watched Buffy at least 8 times through the whole series, so I know the stuff by heart. So I know what episodes is filler, what is important, and I just sit there painting while she enjoys the series, and makes for a social time between me and my girlfriend, and I can also spend the time painting as well, so I don't lose hobby time when I have deadlines for myself. So yeah, I finished 7 out of 8 Saruman during that 2 days, and it's awesome, really awesome. But my ex-wife, she wasn't that big of a miniature game, board game geek. So, but I did the exact same thing with her, and I don't find that weird at all. And she, even though we're not married anymore, she accepted that, and yeah. So if I'm to give a suggestion on how to make people less hostile and less angry about it and stuff like that, be open, don't hide your hobby, be who you are. I never hid who I am behind fashion or clothes or what I say and what I do. I'm me. I'm a big geek, and I don't care who knows it. So just do away with the naysayers. Explain to them what it is that you do. Explain to them that it is a creative hobby that makes you happy. Because if somebody cares for you, if somebody likes you, and they want you to be happy, and if this painting small toy soldiers makes you happy, then who are they to stop you? So a bit of a sad episode this, but yeah. I think it's important, because I know people might struggle with this, but might be in Norway it's a bit of more socially acceptable than in other countries. But Norwegians are weird in their own way. So yeah, I might know. But yeah, so it is what it is. We are all weird in our own way. Every single person of the 7-point-something billion people living on this planet is weird in their own way, and we just we're just easy to pick on, I guess, and that's a social stigma I don't see a point with. Comic book movies are the highest grossing movies of all time. Star Wars, Star Trek, it's, yeah, I don't think I have to defend that argument anymore as well, because these movies are selling like hotcakes, and it's not just the geeks who watches those. Everyone watches those. So yeah, just explain to them what we do, and be proud about it. It's something that most people of a different sexual orientation use as their point, I guess. They try to use words to explain to people that love is love, and that's all it is. And maybe that's what we should do as well. A interest is an interest, and it doesn't matter what interests you, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone physically. People might be threatened by you because they perceive you to be more intelligent, and you have a passion they are jealous of, and that's a wonderful thing. So be inclusive. Ask them if they want to try, because if they don't understand it, they might want to try to understand it, and if they are bullying you for being this interested in toy soldiers and they don't understand it, that makes them hypocrites as well, because they don't have a basis for their argument other than you're weird. But you really aren't. Everyone is weird. So it's going to be interesting in seeing what you think in the comment section below. I have to go to work now. It's morning. So and I'm playing role-playing games all evening, so I can't publish this any later than now. So I'll wrap this up here. Please comment below your stories about your encounters with people outside the hobby. Please comment on how you turn them around. Give good stories about how a person bullying you for being a hobbyist is now a hobbyist. I know there are multiple stories of that, so do comment with that. And yeah, please tell us your views on this, and let's get that. And also, if you do have any suggestions about future topics, please put them in the comment section below or in one of the Facebook posts, and I can maybe use that in a future episode. And if, as this person who suggested my topic for this week did want to be anonymous, please send me a private message on Facebook or message the YouTube channel as well. That is no worries at all. Okay, so that's it for this week. Please join us tomorrow for another SPG Grand Campaign video at 12 GMT. The video for that week is going to be Flies and Spiders Part 2, I think, yeah. Yeah, so I'll see you next time. Please support us on Patreon with a link below, and as always, comment, share, like and subscribe, and support your hobby.